Failure to success. Lessons learned from icons. Are you feeling like a failure? Yes? Good. Failure can be a powerful teacher, and the lessons learned from some of the world's most successful men prove just that. From Thomas Edison to Steve Jobs, Abraham Lincoln to Walt Disney, these icons all had one thing in common. They faced significant failures before achieving great success. Their experiences show that it's not about avoiding failure, but rather using it as a stepping stone towards greatness. So, take a page out of their book and learn from their experiences of failure to achieve the success you desire in today's video. Let's get started. Number 1. Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is a famous example of someone who had to fail many times before finally succeeding. Despite the fact that he was homeschooled and did not have much formal education, his innovative spirit and determination pushed him to create inventions that changed the world. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This reflects his experience with failure throughout his career, particularly in the early years of his life. Despite having over 1,000 patents in his name, most of Edison's inventions were not successful or profitable at first. His first businesses went bankrupt. He struggled with marketing his products, and he even had several failed lawsuits against him for infringing on other people's patents. However, his experiences with failure gave him valuable lessons. Edison learned from these failures and used them as opportunities to grow and learn more about himself and the business world around him. He began to focus on innovation rather than invention alone, meaning that he started taking into account factors like market demand for a product or potential legal issues when creating something new. In addition, he developed an understanding that failure can actually be beneficial in certain instances because it allowed him to recognize what didn't work so that he can find better solutions down the road. Finally, Edison understood that success was rarely achieved on the first try. It took persistence and dedication to see something through until it eventually worked out as planned. Number 2. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is one of the most recognizable figures in American history. He is remembered as a successful president who helped to keep the Union together during the Civil War and abolish slavery. However, this was not always the case. Before becoming President of the United States, Lincoln experienced numerous failures throughout his life. Lincoln failed in business multiple times due to his lack of knowledge about money management and his tendency to make bad investments. He lost several elections before finally becoming a congressman in 1846. In 1860, he lost 2 out of every 3 states in the election for president, but managed to win enough electoral votes to become president anyway. Despite all these failures, Abraham Lincoln kept going and eventually achieved tremendous success. He learned valuable lessons from each failure and utilized them toward future success. For example, after his failed business venture, he spent more time learning how to manage money before investing again. His determination and ability to learn from mistakes is why he was eventually so successful in politics. Lincoln's journey demonstrates that failure is a great teacher if you're willing to learn from it, rather than give up hope when things don't go your way. This idea continues today as many successful people often attribute their success to their resilience through past failures, rather than luck or privilege alone. Therefore, taking risks and being determined no matter what are essential traits for anyone looking for success in any field or endeavor they pursue. Number 3. Steve Jobs. Before Steve Jobs became the co-founder of Apple, he had a few mishaps in his career that led to failure. His first major failure was when he was fired from Apple in 1985 after a power struggle with John Sculley, the CEO at the time. After being ousted from Apple, Jobs started Next Computers, but it failed to make an impact on the market and was eventually sold to Apple in 1997. His next failed venture was Pixar Studios. Despite producing hit films such as Toy Story and Finding Nemo, Pixar struggled financially until Disney bought it out for $7.4 billion in 2006. Despite these setbacks, Steve Jobs persevered through it all and gained invaluable lessons from each experience. He learned how to avoid making the same mistake twice and how to take risks without letting fear hold him back. He also learned about resilience and resourcefulness. Even when things didn't go as planned, he found ways to turn it around and ultimately succeed. Steve Jobs' resilience is ultimately what enabled him to achieve success after so many failures in his early career. He never gave up hope, even when things seemed bleak. Instead, he kept pushing forward until he achieved the success he desired. His determination paid off handsomely. Not only did he become one of the most renowned inventors of our time, but also a business icon whose legacy will live on forever. Number 4. Walt Disney. Walt Disney had a long and storied career, but not everything he touched turned to gold. At times, the creative genius encountered failure after failure. In 1923, Walt and his brother Roy formed the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. The studio initially struggled to create successful cartoons and eventually went bankrupt. However, this setback did not deter Walt from continuing to pursue his passion for animation. In spite of these setbacks, Walt kept on pushing forward, learning valuable lessons about failure along the way. He developed a resilient attitude towards life that enabled him to keep going no matter how many times he failed. He learned to be persistent and never give up on himself and his dreams, no matter how difficult things got. Additionally, he also developed an eye for detail and focused on perfecting every aspect of what he created, something which ultimately made all the difference in his later works like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The secret behind Walt's success was his creative mindset. He was always looking for ways to innovate and push boundaries within the animation industry. He believed in making films that were more than just entertainment, films that could evoke emotion in those who watched them. This is ultimately what set him apart from other animators of the time. While they were content with creating basic cartoons with little substance or feeling, Walt pushed forward by creating stories with depth that could captivate audiences everywhere. His ambition, combined with his resilient attitude, enabled him to take risks without fear of failure, something which led him directly into success as one of the most iconic figures in animation history. Remember, failure can be a powerful teacher. The lessons learned from some of the world's most successful men demonstrate that it's not about avoiding failure, but rather using it as a stepping stone towards greatness. Remember, failure doesn't have to be a barrier to success. Instead, it can be an opportunity for growth, resilience, and determination. Now, it's your turn. Share your biggest failure with us, and let's work together to face it head on. Together, we can use these experiences to learn and grow, taking the next step towards becoming men of substance. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to learn more tactics for overcoming adversity, building resilience, and developing the characteristics of a successful man. Thank you for watching.